Hello and welcome to Heart Rhythm TV. So we're at the Heart Rhythm Society annual sessions here in Boston and kicking off a great day, even though it's raining outside. I'm Chris Liu. I'm the Chair of Health Policy and Regulatory Affairs at the Heart Rhythm Society. I'm joined today by my colleague and friend, Amit Thosani, who is the Head of Electrophysiology at Allegheny Health Network in Pittsburgh. Welcome, Amit.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. So this segment today, welcome the audience, is to talk about this recently released non-compete ban by the Federal Trade and Commission in the United States. So this was just announced as of the end of April. This is actually an issue that we've been following at HRS for this entire past year. The initial ban on non-competes was proposed in about March and April of 2023. And the HRS actually submitted comments in support of this ban on non-competes that of course affects many workers across the entirety of the healthcare industry, including physicians. So this ban finally was announced and finalized as of April 2024. So Amit, do you want to tell us what this ban actually says?
Yeah, so first, Chris, thank you and to the other members of the organization and HRS that advocate on our behalf and make sure that our comments are submitted and heard. The FTC voted 3-2 along party lines in April to finalize a ban against non-competes that takes effect, that should take effect in the early weeks of September 2024. And effectively, the FTC's ruling affects almost 1 in 5 U.S. employees and prevents employers from having them enter into non-compete agreements for various reasons, but this obviously is important to us as physicians, many of us who are now employed.
Yeah, that's right. So as far as we know, the statistics are that roughly 40 to 50% of physicians have non-compete clauses. So this, of course, affects a very large segment of physicians and, of course, including electrophysiologists who are increasingly in employed models. So this is a very important issue, I think, to many of our colleagues in electrophysiology. So do you want to tell us some of the details of this and, of course, questions about jurisdiction and whatnot?
Yeah, so it should be noted that while this rule was voted on in favor of banning non-competes, that the U.S. Various organizations have actually filed suit against the jurisdiction that the FTC may have about enforcing this rule. So that's an important thing, I think, to understand. And certainly while the ruling was finalized, there's still some litigation that's going to occur between now and when the rule takes effect. And so we'll have to see as that unfolds how it affects the actual final ruling and whether it's held up to be valid or not. Regardless, I think the ruling elevates the conversation and has brought this issue to the forefront, which I think is, as you mentioned, important to not just us as physicians, but many U.S. workers who are under the jurisdiction of non-compete clauses.
Yeah, and specifically, interestingly, the FTC ruling actually made specific mention that consideration was given to exempt the healthcare industry from this non-compete ban, and they decided not to exempt the healthcare industry.
They did, and that's actually an important part of the ruling. And if you're interested, obviously these are all publicly stated documents and comments from the FTC that our members can read. The healthcare industry was determined not to be exempt from this, and a lot of the discussion had to do with innovation, access and quality of care, as well as some of the physician hardships that were noted in the public comments about having to leave an area, having to sever patient-physician relationships. And it was of interest, as I read through this document, that other professions, like the legal profession, do not have non-competes, and we do.
Right, of course. So, and of course, for people who are not aware of how this might affect physicians and other clinicians, the non-compete means that if you are a employed physician and if you leave your position, that you have to go outside of, a 5 or 10 mile radius, that you have to sever your relationships with your patients. And this, of course, will ultimately affect patient care and access. So now, what about the consideration that the FTC may not have jurisdiction over non-profit organizations, which, of course, many healthcare facilities, hospitals, are officially non-profit organizations?
Yeah, this was an interesting discussion that I think has been ongoing, and the mere fact of claiming nonprofit status, according to the FTC, is not enough to exempt a nonprofit organization from this ruling. And so what I think is quite interesting is that there's sort of two things that the FTC pointed to. One is whether the corporation is actually engaged strictly in charitable work as part of the monies they generate. And secondly, if, whether the corporation actually derives a profit from its activities. So just claiming tax-exempt nonprofit status is not enough to exempt an organization from this rule, which is relevant to a lot of hospital employees and nonprofit corporations and entities that we work for.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out.
It certainly will.
Because, our hospital is going to jeopardize their official nonprofit status in order to hold up to these non-compete clauses that they're trying to maintain.
Yeah.
And what about that clause about senior executives? So as you said, I think the non-compete ban would be immediately effective for both current and future non-competes, except the current non-competes for senior executives.
Yeah, this is an interesting...
Senior executive positions, those will be allowed to remain in effect, but no new non-competes will be allowed.
That's correct. And so the definition of senior executive is one that needs to be parsed out. And I think the FTC, in its comments, made pretty clear that senior executives does not include department or division heads. They're referring more toward executives who actually have policy-making decisions and therefore have bargaining power to actually affect their own non-compete status as part of their agreement. So that, as far as their current comment and ruling states, does not affect physicians even in leadership positions.
Right, so you're saying they need to be senior executives that have policy decision-making power
Correct.
Over the entire organization.
Correct.
Not just in their very specific department.
That's right.
That they manage.
So the head of a division or department has jurisdiction over that division or department, but not over the organization at large. And therefore, the non-compete ban applies to those folks like physicians.
For the current non-competes.
Correct.
Right. And regardless of the senior executives, future non-competes will be banned. So any new contracts that are being negotiated,
correct,
the new non-competes would not be allowed.
That's correct.
Right. Even if you're a senior executive.
That's right.
All right. Well, that's really great information. Now, you've talked to lawyers, and you know some lawyers,
yeah.
Amit. So, what should our members, what should our EP colleagues know about how useful is this going to be ultimately to us?
Yeah, I think that's the question. I think obviously being educated about what's been ruled upon, number one, and about the process that HRS has been involved with prior to the ruling, I think are important things to understand from an advocacy standpoint. I think for those of us who were affected by contract negotiations that are ongoing before this rule takes effect in September of 24, I would say stay tuned and stay educated. I think it's an evolving process, and I think that the purpose of this discussion, hopefully for our members, is at least to provide some of that education. And I do think that there is some value in even the uncertainty right now and being aware of what the discussion is, as our members negotiate their own contracts and employment agreements.
Yeah, exactly. So, and just so that everyone knows, the Health Policy and Regulatory Affairs Committee sent out communication about this at the end of April when the ruling was announced. It is available on the HRS website under guidance and health policy documents, and certainly we welcome you to review this information. Amit will join the Health Policy and Regulatory Affairs Committee, so we have new talent and we will have ongoing communication to keep everyone updated as this very important issue continues. So we want to thank everyone for tuning in, and we want to thank the audience who are here, and we thank you for caring about electrophysiology.